Alright Internet, I hope you brought your physics pants because today we are going to go on an absolutely mind-blowing journey through four-dimensional space. Yeah, I don't even understand what I'm talking about. Unedited. Okay, so I'm assuming if you're still watching, you're at least kind of interested and have some basic knowledge of dimensions and things like that. For those of you who don't, quick run through, our world exists in three dimensions. You've got length, width, and height, and that's what creates 3D objects. If you've taken any kind of geometry, you get that. Well, scientists have long theorized that there are more than just those three basic dimensions. Maybe there are 7, maybe there are 11, maybe there are 13, who knows? Of course, we, being three-dimensional beings, can't actually observe those dimensions, but scientists tell us that they're out there somewhere, or somewhen, or somehow. I don't know. It is commonly assumed that the fourth dimension beyond those three spatial ones is time, because it kind of makes sense. Because if you wanted to find an object, you have to obviously say where it is along each of the three spatial axes, but then you also have to say when it is that you're interested in it. Because of course objects change over time. In fact, a lot of philosophers of science and stuff have theorized that perhaps time is not really a real thing. It's just the way humans have defined change because we can't really give it any other terms. That's a whole nother video, but the important point of this one is that maybe time isn't the fourth dimension after all. If not, what is, you ask? Well, apparently a lot of scientists think that there are 4 spatial dimensions. You got your length, you got your width, you got your height, and you got something else. The tricky thing is that this is all theoretical, so you can't really observe it or figure anything out for sure, but it's kind of helpful to look at it from an analogy. So here you've got a 2-dimensional thing, and you can move along it, but you can't like go in the 3rd dimension, up or down. Well, imagine that this represents the 3D universe, and then there were some way that you could move away from it or off of it in 4th dimensional space, and then like maneuver around it. So just like you can exist in different places in 2-dimensional space, but you can only go around it by moving in the 3rd dimension, what if you could exist in different positions in 3rd dimensional space, but then move around outside through it in 4th dimensional space? Again, it's really mind-blowing, especially when you try and add on time as a 5th dimension or something else as a 5th dimension. Your brain just legitimately, it's physically incapable of handling this concept. But what I think is really cool, and why I'm making this video and what I was reading about today, is that there's a dude making a video game that exists in 4 dimensions. You see, while our brains can't handle anything really over 3 dimensions, it's really easy to make a computer do it because it's all just a matter of adding one more digit in code. And so he's taken this concept of 4-dimensional space and made a puzzle game where you actually have to move around in 4 dimensions in order to solve the puzzles. When you're playing the game, what you see on your screen doesn't look any different from a regular like 3-dimensional game space, but by pressing a button, all of a sudden you switch into the 4th dimensional axis and can move through it, and the whole world kind of shifts really weird. And if you didn't know any better, you'd probably think it was just making stuff up, but turns out it is actually mathematically defined to be 4th dimensional space. And so he's kind of using this as a tool to give people the intuitive sense that while we can't observe the 4th dimension, maybe we could kind of begin to hypothesize a little bit more about it. And I just think it's really cool that 1, this kind of weird mind-blowing theory exists out there, and 2, that a guy is using a video game to help people figure it out. And I am totally buying that video game when it comes out, by the way. It's called Miegacure or something like that. It's a weird Japanese word, I believe. I'll put a link down in the describey box for you to go and check it out, which I would highly encourage you to do, just because I think it's fascinating. And he's got a video on there where he kind of explains it, and it probably makes more sense than this. I am gonna go read some cool physicsy things now because I'm really interested about this subject. Until next week, deuces.